Welcome to the Modern Classrooms Project podcast. Each week, we bring you discussions with educators on how they use blended, self-paced, and mastery-based learning to better serve their students. We believe teachers learn best from each other, so this is our way of lifting up the voices of leaders and innovators in our community. This is the Modern Classrooms Project podcast. Hello and welcome to the Modern Classrooms Project podcast. My name is Zach Diamond, and I'm a high school media production teacher in Washington, D.C., and a Modern Classrooms implementer. And today I'm joined by Laura Campbell, a fourth grade teacher and Modern Classrooms mentor in Durham, North Carolina. Welcome to the podcast, Laura. It's great to have you.
Hey, I am happy to be here. Hey, everybody.
It's really excited to have you, and thank you for coming on. We're going to talk today about using the MCP model in elementary math. But before we get started with that, why don't you tell me and our listeners a little bit more about yourself? Tell us who you are, everything about your education journey and how you started your Modern Classrooms journey.
Yeah, this is actually my 24th year in North Carolina public schools.
Wow.
And they've all been in North Carolina, all public schools. I know, 24 years. It sounds like a lot. And I feel like I've done everything in elementary. I've taught first grade and second grade and third grade and fourth grade. I've done intervention. And then I came out of the classroom to do some coaching, and I loved coaching. And as I was coaching, every year for 3 years in a row, someone in my fourth grade team would leave before the end of the school year. And I was always suddenly a fourth grade teacher. And so the last time it happened, I told my principal, just leave me there. I don't want to go back and forth. I love the classroom anyway. Leave me there. And lo and behold, the same year I went back into the classroom, my district was actually, or someone, maybe Modern Classroom, was actually paying teachers to pilot this math program. And, teachers are usually not paid to do anything. We are paying other people to help us become better teachers. And so my team and I jumped on it. We were like, sure, we'll try anything to help fourth grade math. And so we kind of went in blind on the MCP journey. And here I am now, all in totally.
That's awesome. And yeah, the going back and forth, becoming a classroom teacher on and off, I feel like there's obviously a whole discussion to be had about teacher retention, right, and sustainability in our profession. That's not the topic of this episode, but we were talking a little bit before we started recording about how the model helps to make it feel a little bit more sustainable. So hopefully that will come up a little bit later. But yeah, and the classroom, the allure of the classroom, right? It pulls us back in.
It does.
All right, so we are going to focus mostly on math, I think, but before we do, give us kind of the full rundown of your MCP implementation. I know that elementary teachers teach all the subjects, and so I'm curious to hear how you implement across all of the classes that you teach. And I guess I have to ask, one thing that sort of baffles me as a non-elementary teacher is how you shift gears with kids, like when you go from a class that is Modern Classrooms to one that's not. I'm just curious to hear all about that because I've never taught elementary, and then we're going to try and focus a little bit more on the nitty-gritty of your class afterwards. But tell me about it generally first.
Yeah. So in general, math is the only part of the day that I do full-blown Modern Classroom. And I steal bits and pieces in all of my other areas because there's some really good things that go with everything I do. But yeah, that shift to, our setup is we come in the morning, we do math first so that we're doing our Modern Classroom. And then we transition to other subjects. And there are kids who are like, can't you just do Modern Classroom for every subject? But the wild thing about elementary school teachers is we have a million preps. We have to prep science and social studies and math. And that was honestly one of the things. It was like, if I make all my videos this year, right? So last year I made all my videos. This year I'm reaping the benefits of my work. I'm like, oh, I've got a video for that lesson. But the other thing that really attracted me to Modern Classroom is I am a curriculum girl. I love curriculum. We use Eureka in our district, and that math program is amazing. I love everything they do, but I could not figure out how could I do Modern Classroom with that. And MCP just did it for us. They partnered with Great Minds, who writes the Eureka curriculum, and they gave us everything they would need on like a silver platter. Like, here, this is how you can do it. So that was the other kind of journey of like, oh, I can easily do this because they've given me everything I need.
Yeah, that's really cool. I didn't actually know that about the partnership with Great Minds. So yeah, it was just done for you. How cool. Okay, so let's get into the details with math a little bit more. Like, tell me about, the tracker you use, the videos that you made, the LMS and how you deploy your materials. Just tell me everything.
Yeah, one of the things that I tell when I'm a mentor, I tell every teacher, the best thing is for you to just make sure you know you can make changes. And last year I used Google Classroom. I made all my videos and I posted them to Google Classroom. This year I'm using Google Sites, which is working out really nicely for me, but I'm still putting those same videos in. And the kids are very disorganized in fourth grade. Lots of elementary students are. And so we don't have a student tracker that they use, but we have a tracker on our whiteboard. And the best thing about elementary students is they love all the little simple things. So they each have a magnet with their initials on it. And they love a reason to get out of their seat. And they love a reason to, go to the board and do something. So they just move their little magnet through the tracker. And it's their favorite thing to do. It's like, I think half the reason why some of them do their work is so they can go to the board and move their tracker.
For sure.
Yeah. And, elementary, there's a lot of worry about student feelings. And I'm sure there is in the older kids too. But, at first, some of the questions are, well, wait a minute, they're going to feel bad if they're on a lesson if they're behind, or they're going to be racing each other. And they get over that so quick. They just know that they're just doing their own thing. And so that public tracker that we use works out really nicely.
It does. And they do get over it. I mean, I've said this many times, but I'm just amazed by how little that actually comes up in the classroom. And I think also, I guess what teachers are really concerned about is students feeling exposed, right? Because kids who are behind know they're behind. And the tracker, it does, expose them a little bit, but it also gives them a path forward. It shows them what to do next.
And it shows them who's already been there. I saw just today, one of my students, he needed help and he knew exactly who to go to because he went to the person that he knew had already finished the lesson. And I heard him say, you already did this one. How do I do this problem? And they don't care. And elementary students, here's what's wild about elementary too. They are constantly getting pulled out. So if you have, an IEP, or if you are ESL, or if you are AIG, someone comes and takes you out of the room. It's a revolving door. And so half the time they're on a different lesson because they weren't in the room, because they were doing something else.
Yeah. And obviously MCP is great for that.
Yes.
Tell me about the videos. So you mentioned this partnership with Great Minds and Eureka. Are there pre-made videos already, or do you also make videos yourself, or both, or?
It's both. They people at MCP are making videos that go with every Eureka lesson for our grade level, and so on days that it's That's time crunch, I just am like, oh, MCP. Now I will tell you, my children are mad at me when I do that. They're like, who is this person? We don't want to hear from them. Where's your video, Miss Campbell? We want your video. And there are times where I make videos because North Carolina doesn't follow Common Core standards. And so there's some tweaks in the curriculum that I make in order to make it address our standard exactly. But yeah, making videos at first felt daunting. Don't make me do this. This is going to be horrible. And then once I got going, I was like, oh, this is great. But yeah, MCP provided all the videos, so I have a backup system.
I mean, that's amazing. That's amazing. But it's great that the kids hold you accountable, right? They tell you that they would rather have you make the videos, but just as a teacher in terms of like your work-life balance, keeping this sustainable, like we were saying before, like that's really nice to have that backup.
Absolutely. And even the backup of my team, I'm like, who's done a video for lesson 8?
Sure.
Oh, I have. Great. Can I post it? Sure. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Is the whole team MCP?
Yes. Our whole team. It's one of those things. And I think our district was so smart in trying to get teams signed up for it because it's so much easier. You just go next door and you're like, I tried this. It's horrible. Don't do it again. Oh, I did it this way. It worked well. Like we're constantly making tweaks and keeping each other afloat because we're all doing the same thing. And it's going really well. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Yeah. I wish that like, I was going to say I wish more people talked about this, but we talk about it a lot. Like teaching is so much trial and error, and there's so many lessons that just bomb, right? There's so many things that you try that you're like, oh, this is going to be so great. I've planned this out. I know exactly how it's going to go. And then you'll do it and it's like, well, that was a disaster,
Yeah.
Like teaching is really so much trial and error.
And when you think you have it, you get a new crop of kids and that doesn't work for them and you got to try all over again. Absolutely. It's a constant revamping.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing that I will say as a former middle and now high school teacher, like when I have 5 different sections of the same class and they're all different groups of kids and it can completely change the vibe, right? It's the same thing. I imagine it's the same thing on a slower time scale for you over the course of a year, right? But like the group of kids can absolutely be a factor in how successful that is. And so you really learn about your lessons that way. And when something doesn't go well, it's great to have a team that is sort of doing the same thing. So you can like bounce ideas off each other and figure out what really does work and what doesn't work.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the self-pacing then. And I guess like, I'll just give you free reign here, but I guess the thing that sort of came to my mind the most is the balance between full group interactions, maybe not, I don't know about lecturing in 4th grade, but like full group work and then individual small group work. And I was also imagining kids like with manipulatives, which I know is a thing in elementary school. And like, what does that even look like in a self-paced class? Because like, how do you know what kid needs what? And when you're doing things as a full group with, you know what I'm saying? So just walk me through it. Yeah.
Yeah. And before Modern Classroom, my math class looked like math classes all across the country where I'm standing up front and we're going through the teaching together and we're going through the problem set together and we're all moving at the same pace. And what it really was is me, waiting for student A to get a pencil. We've got to wait on this student and then student B is like, oh my gosh, I already actually know how to do all this. And they're done with their problem set and you haven't even started the whole group. And it was also like me doing a song and dance. Nobody's listening. Some kids are waiting for me to tell them what to write. You want me to write that? Do you want me to write that? They're not even thinking. And there's always those few students. We all have the students, the same 3 kids raise their hands. And they are the ones doing all the learning. And they're never the ones who need to do all the learning. They're raising their hand because they already know it. And at the same time, our district leaders and our admin are saying, you've got to do more small group. You've got to do more small group. But they're also saying, you got to follow the curriculum. I'm like, well, how do I teach this 60-minute math lesson and follow the curriculum and do small groups? I can't. That's physically impossible. And Modern Classroom was the first thing I've ever seen that gave us a way. Here's how you do it. Here's how you do your curriculum. Because I know when I decided to do Modern Classroom, it was because they partnered with curriculum. Because I lived in a land where we didn't have curriculum. And I was like Googling how to teach 3-digit multiplication. It was like crazy.
Yeah.
And
teacher life.
Yes. And I'm not a curriculum writer. I'm a teacher. I want to implement a curriculum. I don't want to write curriculum. And so this was a way to use my curriculum and check all the boxes. Teachers, there's just 1,000 people telling us the things we need to get done. How are you working with your ESL kids? How are you how are you pushing your AIG? How are you this? How are you that? And then they give you one lesson. Now teach this lesson, whole group. It just doesn't match. And MCP is the first thing that matches.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I I remember the stress of trying to lecture every day. It's similar to what you described. Like one kid's like, "Oh wait, I need a pencil," and I'm like, "I just started. Couldn't you have asked me before?" You know. And then another kid's like, "Should I write that down?" And another, like the kids are just all over the place. I always imagined it was kind of like trying to conduct an orchestra where nobody had learned their parts. It was like, there's like I can't. It's hard for me to even articulate how impossible that is, And yeah, so self-pacing is the solution to that problem, right? It really is.
Yes. And I know people are like, oh, well then I'm still teaching. Like we start together. We always start together and the kids know it. And they're so cute though, because some of them are like, could we skip the whole group stuff? I just really want to get my lesson done. I'm like, no, we're still going to do these things because there are things that we all need to learn together. And there are simply things that like, I'm the one who knows what they need the most. I'm in the room with them. And so even though I've made these videos, once we get going, I'm like, ooh, this is something everybody's getting, wrong. I start whole group, right? But then a majority of the time they're doing their self-paced stuff and I'm actually working with students instead of lecturing. It's so great. It's so great. And then when the kids need to go to the bathroom, they're not missing something. Or when they're sick, or they're out for 3 days and you're like, oh, well, I taught long division yesterday and you weren't here. So I guess you're not getting that math lesson. Like it's crazy that the number of things that get streamlined by doing this self-paced, mastery-based modern classroom.
Yeah, for sure. I'll put you on the spot. Like, do you think you could give me an example or a few examples of like what might be a full group type of activity and what might be a self-paced type of activity?
Yeah. So I do a lot of fluencies whole group, and Eureka in math, they have 3 different fluencies every day that you can choose from. And I usually choose some of those, or I do a review of we just took this, benchmark test and everyone got this question wrong. So now that's my warm up. And that type of stuff. Sometimes I have warm ups go real fast. Like it's like, quick addition, subtraction, quick multiplication. And sometimes it's kind of a deep dive into a concept that I see that they need. And then sometimes it's a little bit of like pre-teaching. Just today, I was like, hey, today you're about to learn the area model for multiplication. And then I showed them what I was about to explain in the video. It was like, because the area model is so important in 4th grade. I'm like, I'm going to need you to hear it 12 or 13 times.
Yeah. And I think it kind of puts I don't know how to say this, but like it emphasizes it in a way that just putting them into the video wouldn't, right? It lets you kind of put a stamp on it.
Absolutely.
To say like, this was important enough to elevate to the level of full group. And in a modern classroom, full group has I guess like a higher level of emphasis, right? Just by virtue of the fact that almost all the learning happens through the videos. Yeah, that's awesome. And I think also like just culturally, I think it's good to start in a full group, even just for a minute or two. My classes, we do block classes and they're like 85 minutes long. I still start with a short full group thing, just even if they're only going to self-pace for the whole class, which we do sometimes. Unless they're like really on a deadline and they all know what they need to do, then I don't. Then I let them just come in, sit down and get to work. But I think that's the tone, right?
Yeah. And it builds that community. You still got to, build that community self-paced. And I know that's a thing that people are like, oh, I don't want them to just work by themselves all the time. They're not working by themselves. We're building that community with that whole group stuff. And then when I'm doing small groups, my kids are working in partners. They're asking each other for help. Like it's not, when you say individually, self-paced, it doesn't mean alone at all, right? Like they're still like, sometimes my class is still way too loud. I'm like, yep. But yeah, it's still building community.
Yeah, for sure. And I think if you don't, it can even be almost more chaotic, right? If you just let the kids walk in and do whatever and don't set the tone.
Yes, they would we talked about this today in my class. If you give an inch, they take a mile. Like, no, you still have to, here's how it's going. Um, and the other thing that often happens when we're doing a whole group, like I do a concept or I do a fluency, but then I'm also like walking over to the tracker board and I'm kind of doing a whole group check in. Like, okay, everybody that's on lesson 5, if you don't finish today, you got a working lunch because you've got to move faster. And everybody that's here, I want you to pause and go do your fracs. There's some of that happening too.
Just sort of like guiding kids as to where they're going. That's basically what I do too. It's like you put the tracker up on the board, or I put the tracker up on the board, and just basically talk through it, right? Okay, today we're on lesson 3. If you finish your first formative, you can go on to the next. Like just sort of announcements. But yeah, just setting the tone, like getting kids centered. We're starting this lesson. We're starting this class period. We're here to learn together.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And then, am I like totally off base with the manipulatives, or is that a thing?
No, that's a thing.
Like, what does that look like in self-paced?
So, and it's probably different for different grade levels. Although first grade is my love. I would love to do this in first grade too. But in fourth grade, there are still times where that whole group opener, I'm getting out manipulatives. And sometimes I'm doing that because everybody needs it. And sometimes I'm doing that because I need them to know this is the tool that we're using and here's how you use it. And then it's going to be available and it's over here in the corner when you need it. And so,
okay.
So kids can go and get it. Or some kids I say, you will always use it. You've got to do that. And then I always have them at my back table too. And so if we're doing multi-digit addition and subtraction and we've got our hundreds, tens, and ones, I'll have some available for kids who want them. And then I am usually using them at my table in my small group.
Interesting. So I think you kind of flipped the switch in my brain. Is there like a lesson on the hundreds, tens, and ones manipulatives, and then they know how to use them, and then they become a tool that they can use when they want to count by tens or whatever?
Yes and no. I mean, usually by fourth grade, they've used all the tools already. But interestingly, like when we get into decimals, the block that represented 100 for their entire lives is now poof, it represents 1. And that blows their mind. And then the 1 is now a 100th. And the 10 is now a 10th. And so,
okay.
So there's a lot of manipulatives, especially at the beginning of a unit. We pull that out to make those, concrete. And then we try to move to the pictorial, and then we move to the abstract. And so there's times that are heavier manipulative than others too.
Yeah, but so I guess like you're sort of teaching them what these objects mean conceptually, and then they become tools that they can use as needed, right? I'm sort of imagining like, I teach audio production, and so we have microphones and we have interfaces, and, there are several lessons where I spend weeks teaching them how to use a microphone and how to use an interface. But then once they know, they plan a podcast or they plan a narration or whatever, and then when they're ready to record, they just go get the microphone and interface whenever they need it. Is it similar to that?
Yes, I can't believe that you could use something in my mind totally different. But yes, that's exactly what it is. Here's the thing we're going to use. I'm going to teach you how to use it. And then if you need it, go get it.
And then it's like there for you. I don't know if I'm right about this, but I always think of that as being kind of like a Montessori thing. Like there's stuff in the classroom that is there for you if you need it, right? I'll teach you how to use it. I'll teach you what it's for, and then it's yours.
It's also one of the shifts of modern classroom that I love, because there's so many classrooms that are micromanaged. You don't get a pencil, you ask me. You don't sharpen your pencil, you ask me. You don't go to the closet and get what you need, you ask me. And sometimes it blows their mind, because I'm like, don't ask me. I am busy. I am busy teaching this group. Do not approach me. Go get what you need. I'm not involved. And they love that. Elementary students who have been told what to do their entire lives, well, they come in 2 categories. They either like love it and run with it, or they literally are like, what do I do? Someone has to tell me what to do. And that takes a little time, but
yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about like developing students' mindsets and their sort of self-image as learners. And, you just mentioned that there are students who come into your class with a lot of, I guess, needs when it comes to like asking you for things, and they are very dependent, and others who aren't. I'll say, as someone who's only taught students from middle school up, like my sense has always been that elementary is sort of the formative time when they really develop that identity as a learner, if that makes sense, like how dependent they are in the classroom. And of course, there's other factors that influence this as well. But I'm curious how modern classrooms has sort of allowed you to support students as they develop their identity as learners and their relation to learning.
And it really just gives them ownership of their learning. Like, you're in charge. And that blows their mind in the beginning. Like, you just want me to watch this video and then do the work, but you have to teach me. Like, no, I don't have to teach you. I taught you. It's in the video. I just recorded it. Like, you don't need me.
Yeah, I get that exact same line I've gotten it from 8th and 12th graders. My line is always like, do I have to teach you or do you have to learn? Like, which one is it? Which
one is it? And that learning culture, there's kind of two. When in elementary school, there's so much emphasis, and at every level, build the relationships, do these things in the beginning to build those relationships. But there's not a lot of talk about building a culture around learning. It's building a culture of kindness and being helpful and being good listeners and all of those things. But a culture of like, oh, we're all in this together, and seeing students get excited about like, ooh, I'm going to go help so-and-so. And I say, that sounds great. Then I don't have to, right? And they're like, what? And they get to do that. And then seeing students, there's this shift, and it's so cool when it starts to happen. And this year it's like right around now. Last year it happened a little earlier, but these kids, they're like starting to realize that they're learning and they're excited and they want to learn. It shift from they have to learn to they want to learn. And they're very much, the culture is now like, talk about math. I don't have to worry about the group that's in the corner and that they're talking about what they're having for lunch, or they're talking about, recess or whatever. They're talking about math because that's that culture that has been built. And in the beginning, I swear some of it stems from the tech side of things. Like, there's always an expert on logging in, and it's not necessarily the kid who's really good at math. And so I'm like, hey, go check with so-and-so. They can help you log in. And they're feeling proud that they can do that. And so there's all sorts of ways to build up that confidence. And, there's all these science proves that people who feel like they're doing a good job and that are getting praise are more apt to do better. Kids aren't going to learn more when they're being told that they're doing things wrong, and that, like, they do need built up. And this makes it really easy. There's always something. We actually end every day with a shout out. There's always something I can shout out about every student in the room. Look, and I'm like, I don't know if I even answered your question. I can talk MCP all day. I love math. I love teaching. But yeah, just having them take ownership of their learning, and they're way more proud. Like, when they get something right and they're like, I did it, they're way more excited. And let's be honest, previously when I did the whole group and they did their little exit ticket and they handed it in, they didn't know if they got it right or not, because I couldn't give immediate feedback to my 28 students while standing in front of the room. And so now I think that's helping too, that they're getting immediate, like, yep, that's good. Good job.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I don't know if I had like a specific question in mind when I wrote this, but like, I guess what I'm sort of imagining is like, when I taught middle school, and now even in high school as well, like I have students that come into sixth grade and are already so jaded on math, right? They've always been bad at math, quote unquote, in their words, right? They've always hated math. They've always been bad at math. And to me, that means throughout all of their elementary school, right? And so like if kids are in a space where not only are they excited by math, they're also praised for being excited about math, like that builds a sort of like core identity that goes so far beyond any particular math concept, right? Any particular math knowledge.
Right. It's like you can do hard things. Yeah, math might be hard for you, but look, you just got it.
Yeah.
You can do math. It might not be as easy as other things for you, but you can do this. And that shift from sitting in a whole group lesson thinking I'm not good at math and I'm going to wait till my teacher tells me what to write versus I'm going to learn this material and I'm going to show my teacher and be really proud of it. Like that's the big shift.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And I think that modern classrooms allows that shift to happen, right? Because, you know, you mentioned the login expert, right? Or maybe you have a kid who's really good at a particular math concept and they're your expert on that lesson. And like, if you were just doing full group, essentially lectures, like there'd be no space in that room, right? For a kid to be the expert. Because when would you send them to somebody else to help? Like you're the one doing the teaching. And so I think there's also, I wrote this down, there's an element of trust too. Like you mentioned that kids are almost like surprised that they can be the helper and that you can do something else. Because it's like you're giving them a level of trust to be the teacher. And that I think also contributes to this sort of self-image of a math learner, right? Even though they have to know that they don't know as much as their teacher does in terms of math content.
Right.
You know, but like to be given the trust to go and be the teacher even for a minute, like that builds that positive self-image as a learner, you know?
Yeah. Just today, I had a student stand up and go, "Who needs help?" We just stood up in the middle. I was like, "Listen, that's great. I'm glad you're wanting to help." But like right, there's just so many more opportunities for kids to feel successful in this modern classroom setup than any other way that I've seen.
Yeah, that's incredible. So tell me about the outcome. Like how would you say, what has been the outcome of implementing MCP in your math class compared to before?
Yeah, so this is actually only my second year implementing. And last year we set up things a little different. So I don't have like student data outcomes, but on a daily basis, just that thing about you have to master it before you move to the next lesson. Because in previous years, like I said, they'd hand the exit ticket in and then, oh, these 5 kids didn't quite understand it. I need to pull them. But when am I pulling them to help? Because I'm lecturing again the next day. And now they're not handing things that are wrong. They are sticking with me or with their partner until they get it right. And so I'm seeing those outcomes on a daily basis change with my students, that they are sticking with it until they understand and then they move on. So that self-paced piece is amazing.
Yeah, no, I love that because that goes to that mindset too of like, if they didn't think that they could do it, they would just turn it in and get the bad grade, right? But these are kids now who know that if they stick with it and know that if they continue to work with you, someone who can help them, they can actually succeed. That's amazing.
Yeah. And actually at the beginning of this school year, I had one student who was like, "Listen, I already did it," because she had a revision to make. She's like, I already did it. I don't want to fix it. I was like, well, that is actually not how this classroom works. You have to keep working until you get it. And they've never experienced that before, that I keep working. They've experienced that's the end of our class, hand in what you were able to do. And tomorrow we're going to move on because that's what my whole group pace looks like. And so that's a shift too. But I think that only builds confidence. Like, no, you're going to keep going until you get it because I know you're going to get it. And now they know they're going to get it. That self-paced is so important and it's really affecting outcomes. And then also like teacher outcomes, which we've talked a little bit, but I know I chose to go back into the classroom. I was very excited, but man, classroom teachers are the hardest working. Every job is hard in a school. It is. But classroom teachers, like my coaching job was way less work. I wasn't bringing as much work home with me. I wasn't putting in the number of hours that a classroom teacher puts in. And especially education, and especially elementary school, it's mostly women in the field. And we are also moms, and we are also wives, and we are sisters, and we are daughters. And some of the little things that have helped me continue to stay in the classroom is just having some flexibility as a human in my job. Like last year, this is like not quite related to student outcomes, but last year I got a phone call. My oldest son's school, he had a concussion. They needed me to go and get him, and
Whoa.
he was fine, but I was able to take a phone call, and my kids were still doing math. And then they got
Right.
whatever random person they could find to come cover my class until they could find a real person. And it didn't matter. My kids were still learning math. Like it didn't revolve around me. And that
Yes.
it's so much stress relief as a teacher to feel like, oh, I can go take care of my needs that are very important, and kids are still going to learn. And so like for me, it's also going to keep me in this job. Maybe I'll hit my 30 years. I'm very close. Here I go. Because it's a hard job. And so having some flexibility where I can take a breath and my kids are still learning is like the best.
Totally. 100%. I mean, I'm glad that your son was okay, but that's still very scary, right?
Right. Like when they finally did get a hold of me, I've actually ended up putting my principal as my emergency contact, because guess what I'm not doing in the middle of math class? Answering my phone. I'm not doing that. And
Right.
so they, couldn't get a hold of me. And when I finally got a hold, I called them back and they're like, we have been calling you. And I'm like, well, I'm teaching, and that's when I tell stories like that, I don't want people to think, oh, I use Modern Classroom because now I can sit over here and do whatever I want. Now I am free to do actual teaching with small groups and circulate around my classroom. But I'm still, I'm not answering the phone, and so it's still a lot of work. You're still on the go the whole time, but you're also flexible, and even flexible with the kids' time. That you know, a student is upset because something happened at home or something happened on the playground or something happened here, there, everywhere. Like I can take time to tend to their emotional need, and everybody's still learning math. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. They're still learning math.
Yeah. And what you mentioned about how you wound up leaving and somebody else stepped in and the kids were able to continue learning. And yeah, I mean, like I said, I teach block classes now. They're 85 minutes. They're very long. Sometimes I need like 30 seconds to just like sit down,
Yeah.
and not talk to any child and just be just wait a sec. And like, I've told the story many times, I think, on the podcast about how Kareem came to visit my Modern Classroom in the very first year that I was implementing. And he and I were just kind of standing there chatting for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And the kids were just working. I was like, this is amazing. Like, I don't have to do anything. I mean, obviously that's not accurate, right? I do have to do a lot of things. I have to do a lot of
Right.
planning to even get it to that point, right? But it's hard to say how this happens, but like just I guess I like how you put the song and dance of like traditional teaching, right? In that song and dance, every minute, every second is accounted for, and you have to sort of like conduct the orchestra, right? And every note has to get played. But in a Modern Classroom, you're not accounting for every second that way, you don't have to micromanage your class. You don't have to be in control of everything that's happening all the time. And it just takes this stress off of everyone, the teacher and the
Yeah.
students.
And, earlier we were talking about like, I don't know why this came to my mind, but just thinking about the shift between I'm teaching Modern Classroom style in my math class and then the rest of the day I'm not. And I get so irritated the rest of the day at these little tiny things. Like I'm up teaching my heart out and a kid's got his hand up and I'm like, yes, you have an answer. And he's like, can I go to the bathroom? Like all that stuff is like, it's eliminated with modern classroom. And like, oh, I can't find the remote to my projector. And I'm walking all around the classroom because I don't know where I put it. And the kids are all watching me look for the remote. Like all those little things don't happen in modern classroom. They just are always learning. It's like everybody's using their time more efficiently. Nobody's waiting for me, and I'm not waiting for anyone else.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. And just the sustainability piece
Yeah.
is so huge, right? And teaching is still hard. It doesn't mean that it makes it easy, but it just makes it less stressful in a measurable way. So yeah, thank you for that. A common concern that we hear a lot about modern classrooms and elementary learners is that they're too young. They're not mature enough. They can't self-pace. I think like I was going to say a legitimate concern. I actually don't know if it's a legitimate concern because we've had MCP. I've seen it in like, I haven't seen it personally, but like I've spoken to pre-K teachers who have used MCP. And I guess like fourth graders are sort of at a level of basic literacy where they can read on an LMS. So maybe that's not a concern for you. But I guess my question is, what advice would you give to an elementary teacher who was concerned about using MCP with young learners? And what tips might you have for adapting the model that did come from high school classrooms originally to support young learners?
Yeah, I have like a million tips, but some of the big things to think about is like number one, like think about the kids you know in your personal life. Can they navigate a computer and a tablet? The answer is yes, they all can. And so you can do this in your classroom. Like no, they can navigate. They can. I'm sure it will take longer for younger kids than like my fourth graders, but they can do it. And I know there's a concern from people about like, I don't want them on a screen all day. My videos are 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes of watching the lesson. And then the rest of the time they're working and they're working with peers and they're, you know, on the carpet and they're over here and they're over there and whatever. But I think we're so afraid to get things wrong, teachers. We want everything to be perfect. And the thought of releasing that control or just trying it, like jump in and try. And I was fortunate to have an administration who's like, yeah, you want to try that? Go ahead. You know, like, and if they came in and it was not going well, I knew it wasn't going to be poorly reflected on me. It was going to be, oh, what can we do to help you? But I really think young learners, they can do things. They can do things. And we've just got to give them a chance and raise the bar, right? Because they can.
Yeah. So I guess I wrote in my notes here, continuing this crusade to convince the naysayers that young learners can indeed thrive in a modern classroom. What challenges did you have in adapting this, I guess I'm going to say high school model, but it's not a high school model. It was initially that. And so like when you were taught the model, what didn't work for you and what did you then have to adapt to make it work for the young learners?
I feel like it wasn't necessarily my kids. It was like, oh, our district is short 1,000 computers. And so not everybody has. So now I have to shift, or so-and-so's login didn't work, or, oh, I got 3 new kids this week. They don't, it's having to onboard the new ones. Like, oh, we just got it all ready. Like it really, I didn't have, if I had a student who couldn't quite get the routine of log in, go to this, bookmark this, here's where you go, here's your notes. I just gave them a partner. Someone in the room can do it. Like I didn't really make it my problem. It's the community problem. Hey, student B needs some help logging in. Who wants to help? Guess what? With little kids, every single one of them wants to help. They all want to help. And I think like tips and tricks, all the things that you're already doing in all your other subjects are the same. Like kids can't memorize their lunch number. And so you put it on a card. Same thing. Like you just come up with a system that will make it work for them. Kids can't log in here. So you bookmarked it or you did this. Like it doesn't feel different to me because kids in every grade level are using technology and they're using computers. I think we just need to use all of those. Even like as a mentor, when I have teachers and they're like, "Oh, now that I'm free to do small groups, what do I do? How do I know who to pull? What am I going to do in the group?" And I always look at them and say, "Well, you do small groups and reading, right?" And they're like, "Yeah." Well, same thing. It's the same. We have to adapt it to math, or adapt our. I think teachers have those tools in their bag already. They just need someone to point it out to them.
Yeah, totally. And it also, I think it goes back to that trial and error, right? Like just try, see what happens. Try something. And if it doesn't work, that's teaching. That is your job, right? To try things out and then improve them. Sometimes it'll work the first time and many times it will not. And, I really think it's telling that none of the things that you said are necessarily unique to elementary school, like they're logistical, systemic issues like missing laptops or whatever. Like that's a problem at any level of school that you then have to work to adapt to. That's a challenge for sure, right? And we all figure out a way to overcome that challenge. But none of those were entirely unique to elementary learners.
And the problems that lots of people, or the hesitations that people have with modern classrooms, are not. I'm constantly like, well, yeah, but they're going to be a problem when you're doing it the traditional way. Like the student who doesn't do their work. Well, what about the kids who don't do work self-paced? I'm like, well, they weren't listening to you when you were teaching. So it's right. The same problem.
Do they all work in the traditional model? Why would any of us do this if they were all working? If it was working, we wouldn't be looking for innovation,
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so Laura, what do you hope to see in the future and what goals do you have? You mentioned this is your second year implementing, and so you're already in the sort of iteration phase, but this could also be personal goals, any professional goals, teaching goals. What do you hope to see in the future?
I feel like my kind of coaching background is coming out with this question because my first thought is I really want to keep teachers. My goal is to keep teachers. And all teachers are being told, it feels like we're being told that we have to help every single type of child in every single way. And we have to be answering the parent questions, and we have to be receiving our field trip money, and we have to be teaching math, and we have to be helping the kids emotionally stabilize, and we have to be working together, and we have to go to this meeting, and we have to do this workshop. Like it's all the to-dos. And I'm so passionate about modern classrooms because it works for everyone in the room. It's working for kids and it works for teachers. Like it just makes everybody's focus on the teaching and the learning. And so like my future goal, I want more teachers to be doing this because I think it's good for kids and because we need to keep our veteran teachers. And this is a way to help us, do both of those things.
Yeah. Again, that sustainability, right? The sustainability of teaching is like, it feels like it hangs in the balance sometimes. We are like on the edge. Yes. It's a I don't know. I can't think of what other metaphors. It's a tightrope. I don't know. Like it's at any moment I'm like a few clicks away from looking for jobs on Indeed. Like what could I do? Yes. And yeah, like modern classrooms is the thing that's pulling me back from the ledge for sure. And like I agree. I completely agree. I think that that's a fantastic thing to hope to see in the future is more teachers using modern classrooms because of the sustainability that it imparts into the profession. 100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if our listeners wanted to speak with you, someone who is so passionate about modern classrooms and modern classrooms in elementary school and beyond, I suppose, how could they connect with you, Laura?
Yeah. So any listeners who want to connect with me, I have an email that I'm happy to answer questions and just talk all things Modern Classrooms. It's laura.campbell@modernclassrooms.org. And spread the word because I'm all in on this.
I love that. And of course, I'll have that email in the show notes so folks can find it and connect with you if they'd like to. And thank you so much, Laura. This has been fantastic. I was mentioning this before, I don't teach elementary school, and so I'm always a little bit anxious about asking the right questions. And I hope I did okay, but I feel like you have really enlightened me, and it's actually really great to hear in some ways how similar, the challenges and also the benefits are across all levels of school. And I really appreciate that. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. I love talking MCP, and it is interesting to know that all the teachers are in the same boat everywhere we are.
We are. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. Listeners, remember you can always email us at podcast@modernclassrooms.org, and you can find the links to topics and tools we discussed, as well as more info on this week's announcements and events in the show notes for this episode at podcast.modernclassrooms.org. We'll have this episode's recap and transcript uploaded to the Modern Classrooms blog on Friday, so be sure to check there or check back in the show notes for this episode if you'd like to access those. And if you enjoy our podcast and it's been helpful in supporting you to create a blended, self-paced, mastery-based learning environment, we would love if you could leave a review. That does help other folks find our podcast. And of course, you can always learn the essentials of our model, if you want to go beyond the podcast, through our free course at learn.modernclassrooms.org. And you can follow us on social media at modernclassproj. That's PROJ. We are so appreciative of all the hard work you do for students and schools. Have a great week, and we'll be back next Sunday with another episode of the Modern Classrooms Project podcast.